Hey everybody, it's Rod with Van Guns coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm going to talk about my AR-15 in 300 Blackout. AR-15 on YouTube? Well, this thing's not going to get directed anywhere. I'm going to need you guys to subscribe and like to make sure this video gets pushed out to the world. Because you know, YouTube, yeah, they don't like AR-15s. They think that's basically an F-bomb. But we all know that it's our Second Amendment right. But anyway, I want to talk about why I got a second AR-15, this one chambered in 300 Blackout. So my first AR-15 actually was purchased fairly recently. I've had some other semi-automatic rifles. I've owned a couple AKs, even had an old SKS. And I don't have the SKS anymore. I had a guy who wanted it more than me, and he paid me way too much money for it. But that's another story. You know, I own a Ruger Mini 14, which I still like that rifle, even though it's got as many haters as lovers. But the first one I bought was a Ruger MPR, and I got that chambered in the classic 5.56. Right out of the box, that gun tack drived. I was very impressed with it. And if you're, you know, not familiar with that, check it out on Ruger's website. They're a little proud of it, getting roughly $1,100 list price, but I'm pretty sure you can find street price on that under $1,000. Whether or not you think it's good enough to pay $1,000 for it or not, that's up to you. I've had excellent luck with it. It's been a fantastic rifle. But later, I built an AR-10, and I built that from Aero Precision. And I built this went with top of the line, everything from Aero Precision, right from the super fancy bolt and carrier and all of it just went top of the line on it. And that's been a fabulous rifle. That AR-10 is amazing. And I'm very impressed with Aero Precision products. So impressed that when I decided to get a 300 Blackout AR-15, I went ahead and went back to Sporting Systems in Vancouver and bought another Aero Precision rifle. And I'm quite happy with that one. I didn't quite go all in on top of the line. The bolt and carrier is kind of the middle grade rather than the top grade. I was trying to keep that build around $1,000, and I was able to do that. It may have gone a little bit over, but it was close. And that has been a fabulous rifle. That's this guy right here, 16.5 inch or 16-inch barrel. This is now a normal legal rifle, right? So I don't have to worry about short-barreled rifle or AR pistol or any of that. For 300 Blackout, I'd really like to get a shorter barrel. And ultimately, if we get all this nonsense figured out with the ATF, I'd love to get a 9-inch or even a 12-inch on this and then put a can on it and then have that for my suppressed fire, and then keep this 16-inch if I want to use the gun for anything more long range. So that's my plan. It's so easy to swap out an AR upper, just a couple of pins, and it just comes right off and the new one goes right on. This is just a simple red laser with a flashlight up on the front. I got this Bushnell 1:6 with an illuminated reticle. This I got on sale. I think it was at Sportsman's Warehouse. Doesn't matter where, but it was really a good price. I think it was maybe $200 for an illuminated reticle. That's pretty nice. 1:6. I'm real happy with this little guy. I might do a review on that one of these days. I got a mini review on my Van Guns blog. I'll put a link down there just to Van Guns blog. You can search through that stuff. I got a bunch of mini reviews. So I want to talk a little bit about why I think 300 Blackout is an excellent round to use in an AR platform. I don't think it's necessarily a replacement for 5.56. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ballistic differences between the two. 5.56 does some things better than a 300 Blackout, and 300 Blackout does some things better than 5.56. But for home defense, in particular, where you're in kind of close quarters in that situation, I feel like the 300 Blackout is just the way to go. It's easy to suppress. You can go subsonic and still have 500-600 foot-pounds of energy. And you certainly can't go subsonic with 5.56. and have any kind of power. I mean, it's literally weaker than a 22 long rifle if you slow it down below the speed of sound. So it's kind of useless if you're looking for subsonic suppressed. The Blackout, of course, exceptional for that. It was kind of designed to do that. This AR-15 from Aero Precision, I literally bought this off the shelf at Sporting Systems. You can buy all the individual parts and super custom it, or you could just buy the 4 basic boxes you need to make it go. And that's the way I went. So I bought a complete upper, a complete lower, and then the bolt and carrier and a charging handle separately. And like I said, I went with some kind of good stuff. I think my total ticket on this was less than 1,100, a little over 1,000. Throw some tax on there, it's probably 1,200 bucks. But I'm super happy with the build quality. The only complaint I have about this one, my first AR build from Aero Precision had a Magpul back here that I thought was a little bit nicer than this one that they're using now. It works fine. It's real easy to collapse and extend, but it's really kind of just doesn't feel as nice as the Magpul furniture they used to use. I don't know if they still offer Magpul furniture. It might have been this lower, it just came with this. But other than that, I got no complaints about this rifle. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I highly recommend AR Precision products. I've got 2 of them now, the AR-10 and this AR-15 and 300 Blackout. So let's get into kind of the ballistics, and I'm going to comment on why I think 300 Blackout is something you should have. I don't believe it's a full replacement for the 5.56. I think there's some things that 5.56 is better at. But I think for home defense and zombie apocalypse, hard to beat. So let's get into it. Okay, so here we've got the chart that I created with all the ballistic data for 5.56 and 300 Blackout. And I picked several bullet weights and subsonic for both as well. So I'm going to zoom in on this chart and we'll get into the data starting with the 5.56. Okay, the first 2 are the 5.56 55 grain and 62 grain. These are real popular loadouts for 5.56. You can see the velocity and energy and so on. Recoil is really not an issue with these. I'm using a 6.5 pound rifle as the gauge for that. But take note at the distance and relative foot pounds. So you get 1,000 foot pounds of bone crushing energy out to about 100 yards. You're getting 500 pounds all the way out to nearly 400 on the 55 and 400 on the 62, and 300 foot pounds, well over 500 out to 600 on the 62 grain. So that's pretty impressive. Your maximum point blank range there, 295 and 282 respectively, delivering over 600 foot pounds of energy at that maximum point blank range. Add some wind into the picture, and yeah, those little bullets like to fly around in the wind. So your maximum point blank range with that 1090 wind is 170 yards. Now, Barnes has got a pretty potent 77 grain load for the 5.56. You can see it here, putting out more power than the other 2, a little less common. You're getting 1,000 foot pounds all the way up to 145 yards, 500 pounds out 500 yards, and all the way to 750 yards with 300 foot pounds of energy. Point blank range suffers just a little bit with your 267 yards, but you get nearly 700 pounds at that distance. Wind drift, actually a little bit better, so you're 180 yards when adjusting for that 1090 wind. Okay, I'm not going to spend any time on the subsonic here. You can see the numbers. It's a joke. You're getting 177 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, maybe a little bit better than 22 long rifle, but barely. And then your maximum point-blank range is just 100 yards, and you're getting 157 foot-pounds at that. So it's honestly kind of useless. This is where the 300 Blackout's going to kick its butt. Okay, here's the 3 supersonic loads, pretty common loads. The 110 grain Hornady VMAX there, 125 grain, I think that's a Fiocchi loadout, and then the, or 125 grain, pardon me, and then 150 grain. It's actually an inexpensive loadout from Ammo Inc., I think. But anyway, you can see the numbers here. Velocities are substantially slower. but your bullet weights are substantially heavier. And so what you'll find on these loads, you get a little bit, your energy carries better downrange because you got heavier bullets and for the most part with a higher BC. So look at how, I mean, the ranges for 300 foot-pounds is ridiculous. I mean, there's so much drop at that point that you'd have to shoot it off a cliff. But the 500 foot-pounds, 370 yards, 400 yards, 470 yards, and still carrying 500 foot-pounds, that's nuts. Not that I would shoot 300 Blackout at that range. I think the 5.56 is flatter shooting and would be better for that, but it just doesn't have as much energy. You'll notice the point blank range is lower. Max point blank range here, 225, 210, and 194. But look at the amount of energy it's given you at that. And just in case you're not aware, maximum point blank range is where you set up the rifle so that you can just aim right at the target, no holding it high or low or anything like that. Just aim right at the target, and the trajectory is calculated in so that you'll hit that target in, say, a 6 or an 8-inch circle. This is a 6-inch circle here. So you get a little less wind drift, and so your maximum point blank range isn't as affected by the wind. You'll notice 145, 140, and 145 respectively. Okay, now the elephant in the room, subsonic. 300 Blackout lets you run a 220 grain. I've even heard of some 230 grain loads, but I couldn't find any data for that. But look at that ballistic coefficient of 0.659. That's the G1 scale. You're getting 518 pounds at the muzzle, and you're still over 500 at 60 yards out. These are home defense ranges, guys, under 100 yards. Maximum point blank range on this, also just barely over 100 yards, and you'll get 482 foot-pounds at that 100-yard distance. So this is really ideal, and you can shoot this suppressed and get these numbers. So you protect your hearing, which is important. So this is really where it kicks butt. In general, the cartridge is delivering more energy at just about every bullet type. Not as much of a difference on the high-speed supersonic loads as you see in the subsonic, but it is a more potent cartridge. And I just don't feel like 5.56 or 300 Blackout are really that effective beyond about 250 yards anyway. So I don't care about the flatter trajectory nearly as much as I might with a more powerful cartridge, like comparing 308 to 6.5 Creedmoor, for example. But anyway, that's what I got on the data. One last thing on these two cartridges. I mentioned earlier that each cartridge does something well. And I didn't mention it yet, so I'll mention it now. 5.56 is much better at penetrating hard barriers. It's got extreme velocity and better sectional density for the most part, maybe with the exception of the 220 grain subsonic, but that one's not going fast enough. So if you need to penetrate a hard barrier, 5.56 is going to blow 300 Blackout out of the water. 300 Blackout does kick its ass subsonic and is superior for soft targets. So that's why I think you kind of need one of each, guys, or at least have a pair of uppers. All right, now I'm done with the data. So there you have it. That's kind of how I kind of look at this whole 5.56 versus 300 Blackout. And I'm very happy with both the Ruger MPR and 5.56 and this fantastic Aero Precision rifle in 300 Blackout. And this is my rifle that I use as home defense. Now I have a pistol that's in a quick safe on my nightstand. So when something goes bump in the night, that's the first thing that I grab. But this gun is accessible in my other gun safe should things get crazy, multiple attackers, and have the wife call 911, and I'll try to fend them off with this thing if I have to. That's kind of how I've got that set up. But 300 Blackout for home defense is really, really excellent. And what's beautiful about it is it's really simple. if you don't want to have two separate guns, you can just change out the upper. The magazines are all the same. So 300 Blackout is basically just a necked up version of 5.56. One thing I want to say, be very careful if you decide to do a one rifle combo, or even if you have two rifles, put some kind of a mark on the magazines that have 300 Blackout so that you know. You wouldn't want to accidentally try to run 5.56 through this rifle. It would be catastrophic because it would chamber those 5.56s, but obviously it'd be real sloppy in there and all kinds of horrible things would happen, might even result in injury or death to the shooter. So you want to be very, very careful to make sure only 300 Blackout is going through this type of a rifle. Now, the other way around, if you tried to chamber 300 Blackout into a 5.56 rifle, it wouldn't chamber because the bullet's too fat, just physically wouldn't go in there, but you might damage your rifle in the attempt. So keep that in mind. That's the only thing you got to be careful of, because the magazines will fit. And I've just put a dot, like a sticker dot on there. It says 300. So I know that's a 300. It's a bright, like neon sticker on there. I got one on both sides of the magazine. So when I grab it, I see it. So that's really all I'd say about that. So thanks for watching the video. Please hit that subscribe button and give us a like here. It really helps. YouTube really doesn't like us talking about AR platform stuff, so they're not going to give me any love pushing this thing out. So I'd love to get your help, and I'll try to make some good content for you here over the next several months.